Alright guys, now today we're going to be talking about changing an outlet. Let's just say you've got a real dirty one like this, or one that's broken, or maybe you want to change the color for your paint job or to kind of dress up a new place. First thing you're going to do is make sure this outlet's off. I'm just going to also talk about the tools you need for this real quick. Tester, obviously, never a bad idea to have one of these. If you don't have one, you can always plug something into it and then just flip the breakers until whatever you have plugged in turns off. You're going to need your new outlet, some sort of screwdriver with either a flathead or Phillips head, sometimes both. And then I like to use needle nose pliers to get the wires out and rebend them and everything, but honestly you could probably use any type of pliers. Alright, so now for turning it off, I'm just going to go ahead and put my tester in there. Green means nothing. That means it's hot. So I'm going to go flip some breakers until I get this bad boy to turn off. Alright, I went ahead and turned off the breakers. I didn't want you guys to be annoyed by the noise this thing can make, so just to double check, it's always worth it to double check this so you don't end up zapping yourself. I have unfortunately zapped myself probably 3 or 4 times. Alright, so now we'll go ahead and start taking this bad boy apart. We'll get ready for the new outlet. And honestly, the best advice here, I mean, obviously if the outlet was working, is just follow the you guys might not like the sound of a ratcheting screwdriver, but I personally love it. Find it very therapeutic. Okay, so it looks like this might be a jumper. So we're gonna just make a note of where all this stuff is. 2 whites over here, 2 blacks over here. Just like on our new outlet, the white wire is gonna go to the silver screws. The black wire is gonna go to our brass yellow screws here. And then the ground bare wire here is going to go to the green screw. Now, I may or may not speed this part up because these wires, the way they are, can be extremely frustrating to get out of here, depending on who put them in and how they did it. Okay, that was actually not too bad. Come on. Don't be afraid to get a little rough in there too. Sometimes these wires, they're much more durable than they look. Oh, so far this is, well, I shouldn't jinx myself. I was about to say so far this is a dream, but whenever I do that I usually end up in trouble. Okay, you'll notice I'm putting the wires, the one that was on top, up, down, down. That's just for an easy reminder for me as to which order they go into for the traveler wire. So I'm pretty lucky actually. Normally, because these are so hard to take out, I usually need to, unbend them and rebend them with the pliers here. But honestly, that came out so easy, we might get lucky and not really need to bend them back in. I might do it just for the sake of security a little bit, but pretty simple process. Just put it back on the way it was, and then we'll put the tester on it when we have all this back on, but then we'll also plug something in. Make sure it's working okay. Now normally, you want to be careful with these. You don't want to get the, especially when it's a new white outlet, you don't want to get it all dirty. But this one's going to be behind a fridge, so I'm not as worried about it looking pristine white, since no one's going to see it anyway. Okay, so I will use just because I don't like the way that's bent, I will use the pliers to kind of straighten that out. That way it'll go on the ground screw a lot easier. Alright, so before I even screw it back in, I'm just going to go ahead and turn on that breaker and see what we got. Alright, the breaker is on. Didn't explode, so that's a good sign. Sweet. So that's working there. Now let's plug this in without zapping myself. And voila, we got power to this charger. Alright, and now we'll just turn the breaker back off, because I'm going to screw it back in. Sometimes that part's pretty tough and you accidentally will touch the wires and then you'll zap yourself. It's fun. That's usually how I end up doing it to myself. Alright, I turned off the same breaker. I know it's the same breaker, but again, no problem in double checking yourself before doing this. It can be a pretty big deal. Okay, so thankfully that goes right back in. Well, not right back in, but without too much of a fuss. Once you get the screw started, get the other screw going. The other thing with these, the screws they give you are pretty long, so you don't want to screw one in all the way and leave the other one out. You kind of want to do a little bit at a time, each way. Crud the ratcheting, kind of. There we go. Whoops. Don't worry about that scuff on the wall. I'll paint that later. Usually, I'll admit, I use a drill on outlets, parts like this, because it just goes so much faster and so much easier, but I figured since people doing this at home might not have a drill on hand for this kind of stuff, I figured I'd just use the screwdriver to show them it can be done. It's just a little bit more time-consuming and tedious. So I like them to be as straight up and down as possible. So I'm going to hold this in place while I finish tightening this up. And there we go. Turn the breaker back on and we're good. That's how to change an outlet.